G'day guys, and this is Stu here from Plan Manage Assist, and welcome to NDIS TLDR, Too Long Didn't Read. Today with me, I've got Jess from Future Wellbeing. How you going, Jess?
Good morning, Stu. How are you?
I am doing well. Thank you so much for asking. And so what I wanted to talk about today with yourself, being sort of really in-depth with this sort of stuff, is when there's a crisis, when there's a problem, either on the verge of a problem happening or something's already in the midst and there's issues going on with participants and those sort of things that are happening. What are some of the key things that we should be sort of looking for, both from the perspective of a coordinator and from those other stakeholders? What are those things that we should really be sort of looking for, firstly?
I think, first of all, if you know your participant really well, you know when a crisis is, mostly you know when a crisis is going to occur, right? You're in regular contact with your person, you're in regular contact with the family, you know their background, you know their history. Whether it's a medical emergency, a mental health, a psychosis, incarceration, homelessness, whatever it is, you generally, if you've got your finger on the pulse already, you're generally going to know what's about to happen. Sometimes things will come out of left field and you're like, okay, now we've got to bring all the guns together. And that is your stakeholders. And I think as well, having a good relationship with the people in your participants team. So, a participant's going to come into your service, for example, you get to know them, you get to know their OT, you get to know their behaviour supports. You've already formed that. You've already got consistent communication, having ongoing MDT meetings, bringing everyone together, making sure everyone's doing their job. There's no weak link. So I think when a crisis does unfold, hopefully you can manage that pretty well. Obviously, like for some support coordinators, they've got very heavy caseloads. I think that's something to be mindful of. So you've immediately got to prioritise your caseload and get that person's needs met pretty quickly. And that might mean a bit of overtime.
Look, I don't know of any support coordinator that works off the clock or pro bono.
Me neither.
It's completely unheard of to have a support coordinator doing stuff that's not being billed. But I think as well, this is really more for those that are either new to support coordination or those, as you mentioned, those that may not necessarily have the ability or the skill set to juggle that caseload quite yet. But I think the crux of what you're really saying here is that preparedness can trump everything. Yeah. And knowing who your participant is, what they need, what their disability is, and what that can potentially lead to. Imagining what's going to potentially happen, that we've already got that plan A, plan B, plan C already sort of in the works. You're absolutely right that I think that will trump a lot of those other
That's right.
issues.
Risk assessments are really important as well. So having your risk assessments in place. If some support coordinators might be a bit new to the space, if they're not sure how to do that, go to their team leader and ask the family what things have triggered your participant in the past. Speak to behaviour supports, unpack their behaviour support plan. There's going to be strategies, there's going to be risk assessment within that behaviour support plan that they can use as well.
Absolutely, and it's good that those newbies do potentially have those team leaders, but let's say that a support coordinator might be, and there are going to be a few that are like this, that either are independent or maybe very new, that they are support workers that have become support coordinators. Yeah. Where might they be able to turn to if they don't have a strong team leader like yourself, say for yourself with your organisation, but where might they be able to get information? So they should be maybe going to networking events and collaborating with their support coordination.
Coming and finding a mentor, find someone at another service that you connect with, that you guys can have a coffee with or debrief to each other. There's a lot of people quite isolated, I think, in the support coordinator space, Even for me, I've got lots of colleagues that I can reach out to when things are, and still even I'm quite experienced. Most of my experience now is level 3 support coordination. But there's still ones that get me and I'm like, and I've got a couple of girls on speed dial and I'm like, blah, blah, blah. And we unpack it, but you can unpack things in a conversation and come to your own resolution for most of the time. I think also training.
And you're right, with the training is good, and having good training around you is also very important. I know that as well. We've got the support coordinator networks that every region might have, depends on around Australia, but I know that yourself being connected with Southwest Sydney, having those people that you can lean on that are, they're not, that, yes, technically they might be competition in some way, but it's not being seen as such. There is that element of collaboration. We'll get to that collaboration being a filthy word later. But in terms of so for those independents or those ones that may not have it, as you said, find someone within the network, find someone within your circle that could essentially be an ally in some way.
Link in with your governing bodies, link in with DSC, DIA. These are really important tools. The space is changing very quickly. And if you aren't keeping up to date as a support coordinator, and again, I'm learning all the time. There was something came up this week and I was like, wow, I did not know that. Came up through the hospital HLO. I was like, well, that's new. So you've got to keep abreast of things like that. Otherwise, you're going to feed your participants the wrong information.
And that's going to happen so often when we're constantly swamped with either having a caseload that is too big, not being up to date with what's changing with the NDIS, because it is changing so rapidly that I reckon 3 policies have probably changed while we've been speaking. It's entirely possible. And I think that as well as that, it is so crucial to have that keep your head above water, because that will allow you to be prepared. Jess, what does a good caseload size look like, say for a level 2 and a level 3? Because obviously there's going to be variances. For a level 2, what would be a good ballpark figure for one of your consultants if they were to be a level 2?
Look, I would say for a full-timer, it depends on the complexity of the participants,
of course,
right? Some are going to be what we call frequent flyers.
Yeah.
So they're going to be on the phone every day. Some might, and some might just need a monthly check-in. Jess, I just want to see you once a month. Okay, sweet. Somewhere between loosely in the 30s, I would imagine, very loosely.
Yeah, and of course, that's, as you said, there is going to be that level of variance based on the needs. And for a level 3?
A lot smaller to do it properly.
Yeah. Would say maybe 10 to 15?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.